Yeah, man, I'm as old as your kid. That's weird. I could be your child. I don't like that. I'm gonna have an existential crisis right now.
So, daughter Lauren, tell me,
Jesus, no. My father can barely call me that.
Oh man, well shit, let's get things started. Lauren, hey, thank you so much for joining me on Eman's top 3 new comic book day picks, and this is going to be for August 25th. This is super last minute. We're getting the show started, so thank you so much for joining. I really appreciate it.
Oh yeah, no, I'm happy to come on and fill the void and hopefully cause some chaos. So
I love it because I just started following Lauren and the House of Nerd like really not too long ago. I think like within the last month. And I'm quickly becoming a fan. I just like I really do enjoy Lauren and Sergio. And who's the other guy's name? I forgot. Steve. He's the easiest name. I should have remembered that. But yeah, Lauren, Steve, and Sergio at the House of Nerd, like they have good chemistry, you guys. So we'll plug their show at the end. But yeah, if you're not following them, you guys got to follow them. They're pretty dope.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I mean, my favorite episode's probably been about 2 episodes ago. It was the day after my birthday, and I was hungover, and Sergio was hungover, and we literally planned it, so it was less planned, because usually our show has segments, and we have specific things we do that people can look forward to. That's how we like to do the show. But we said, fuck it. We're just going to bring some fans on, and we're just going to just see what happens. And chaos happened, and it was amazing. So it was a great birthday present to me.
It's one of those, I can't talk about that right now. Just who's in the green room? So-and-so, yeah, like
well, I mean, I mean, to be fair, Sergio didn't get on the StreamYard itself. We start at 11. He wasn't there till 10:56, and we didn't know if he was going to show up. Like, we literally had no idea what was going on. And then he showed up, and he was just like he is on the episode, in a dark room with sunglasses on. And I just cracked up. I was like, I thought I was hurting, but you're done, dude. It was great.
I think I watched that episode. I watched a little bit. I think at that time I was on my way to go hang out with my kids they live about 2 hours from me. So sometimes I'll have the shows on while I drive. Of course, I'm not watching. I'm being responsible.
Right.
It's all listening.
Oh, responsibility. Oh, being safe.
People say drive safe. I will do no such thing. How dare you?
I will drive as unsafe as I wish.
You're not my real dad. You can't tell me what to do.
Yeah, that's me at you, calling me daughter Lauren. You're not my father. Slams the door, drives off.
So, we just found out that Lauren's as old as one of my children. So she's daughter Lauren to daughter Lauren. Welcome.
Oh, God, terrifying. I hate it. That's almost as bad as one of the voices my father does. Oh, God. Terrifying. And I have earplugs in, so that went directly in my eardrums. No. Directly.
Well, let's get things started, Lauren. We're going to be talking about our top 3 picks for New Comic Book Day, August 25th, 2021. Now, of course, again, this is in no particular order, or it might be, I don't know. We'll figure it out as we go along.
Who knows?
But we're talking about our 3 picks for New Comic Book Day, and we're going to start off with Lauren. Talk to me, my friend. What is your number 1, or what's your number 3 pick for New Comic Book Day? Let's start. We'll go backwards. I don't care.
We'll go backwards. I mean, it's hard putting them in order. I mean, okay, so to be fair, I had a hard time figuring out what comics were happening what week when Eman was bothering me earlier, and he was like, hey, send me this stuff. And I was like, of course I will. And I kept sending the wrong things. And he was like, that's not it. And I was like, I'm so sorry. I was very off my game today. But I came to a conclusion that there are 3 books. I'm not sure I can put them in order. But you know what? I'm going to do it.
No particular order, or if you could go ahead.
We're just gonna do it. We're just gonna do it. Okay, I mean, I gotta keep some rules. All right, I will break one though.
So then, right here, I'm gonna go ahead and put in particular order Lauren's top 3 New Comic Book Day picks for August 25th.
No, but I'm gonna break the rule before I do that, because I'm gonna follow that rule. But I have the honorable mention of Way of X number 5. There were too many books I wouldn't pick in my top 3, but Way of X, if you can't tell by my wall, my head's covering him. There he is. He's over there. That's a thing. Yeah, he's right there. I'm a huge fan of Nightcrawler. If you don't already watch my show or know anything about me, and Way of X, I've been following very intensely because it's the first more Nightcrawler centric book we've gotten in a while, and it also has a lot to do with how Krakoa is going to go to the Inferno line in X-Men. So it's a huge deal, and I'm very excited because it's the last issue of Way of X, and it's going to continue into a line with Onslaught, who is a very famous X-villain that's now coming back.
Nice. And I've heard of the Way of X books, and to my understanding, they're up and down, but it's fitting in that continuum really good. So to my understanding, almost all of the X-Men books, Hellions, X-Men, X-Force, Way of X, all of the X books are actually a decent read right now. Some better than others, but the overall world building regarding Krakoa, like that's a big thing now, isn't it? I mean, like the X-Men have their own nation, and no one's allowed there, right? I
mean, they also have a planet. Mars is now planet Araco. So they have Mars now, in case you missed that, in Plant-Size X-Men. So yeah, it's huge. I mean, Jonathan Hickman's the one that's in charge of the X office, so he's been spearheading this new era. And yeah, I would say, if anything, the world building is amazing. I feel like a lot of people think they have to read every X book. You don't. I'm a huge X-Men fan, and I only read Way of X, Hellions, and Marauders, and the X-Men line currently. And I'm honestly considering dropping X-Men, but I'm not yet because Laura Kinney's Wolverine, and I love her. It's a hard life for me.
Gotcha.
But yeah, it's a great world building. But you know, us X fans are a little kind of concerned because the Infernal event's happening, and Hickman is now going to Substack, so we don't know if that means he will leave X-Men as well. Because if he does, that's gonna be very drastic.
Well, that's something that he's built, right? I mean, he's been doing X-Men for these last couple of years. He's been doing nothing but like a pretty decent job. And it seems like the X-Men and the Avengers world, they're completely separate now. There's this whole narrative with X-Men, and then like there's Avengers stuff, and he's been able to keep them separate in a good way, to my understanding.
I mean, that's what's funny though. Like, I mean, even in the new X-Men issue, I mean, you literally have the X-Men coming to New York and starting to help Earth again. And the Avengers and Fantastic Four come in, and the X-Men are like, we've got it. And the X-Men Fantastic Four back off. So in a way, I mean, they're still all in the same world, and it's being ran that way. But the X-Men and mutants in general are now, I mean, they're basically above everybody. Like, literally. So, yeah, it's wild.
All right, so this has changed to Eman's top 3 new comic book day picks and Lauren's number 1.
That was an honorable mention.
Honorable mention.
I have to break the rules. I'm sorry.
Don't worry. Look, it's okay. That's what I like about my show, is that it's going to go the way it goes, no matter what. Sometimes there are times where we only talk about 5 books total, and I'm like, I don't care. Those are my books. Whether you pick them or not, those are my books too. So, yeah.
Exactly.
All right. So you brought up your honorable mention. Talk to me about your number 3. What's your number 3 pick for that new comic book day pick? Comic book day.
So my top 3 pick for the week of August 25th is actually a book we talked about on my show that you so nicely mentioned earlier. It was actually a book that I picked for us to read, and we did read, and we all thought was great. It's called Siphon. It is issue number 2. It's a really cool book to me because the first issue, the whole premise is that this gentleman who works like as a EMS driver and stuff, he ends up getting the ability to feel other people's pain. And basically the whole point of the Tau Siphon is that he can either learn to siphon that pain in a way to help others, or he could potentially learn to siphon that pain to hurt others. And so it was a really good first issue. The colors were beautiful. So I'm really excited to see what they do in that second issue.
I'm with you. I thought Siphon number 1 was actually one of my picks when it came out that week. I thought the first issue was great. I'm actually looking forward to number 2. Let me read a little bit about it. I'll go ahead and read the synopsis on this. Siphon number 2, writers Patrick Meany and Mohsen Ashraf. To my understanding, he's the creator of the book. Artist is John Kalish. After being gifted with the power to siphon pain from others, Silas found new purpose in life, but the weight of carrying others' burdens gradually wore him down. After meeting the mysterious Antonio, he discovers another side to the power, the ability to steal people's pleasures from them. Ooh, oh my. Now he will have to decide whether to follow Antonio to a life of glamour and pure joy, or keep carrying the weight of others' pains and hope, and find hope in the darkest corners of the world. So now his power is already evolving after the second issue, which I like a lot. We're learning a lot more about Silas here. I'm with you. I'm digging the colors. I'm digging the art. I like the storytelling so far. Of course, there's only one issue. I want to see where this goes. I'm really intrigued.
Yeah, I'm really interested. And I think it's only going to be like 5 or 6 issues. I think it is a shorter series. So it makes sense that his powers would be growing that quickly by the second issue if it's a shorter series. It's not meant to be an ongoing. I'm not sure on that, but that's what I've been told. But yeah, I'm really pumped for it. I really like stories that focus heavily on people's thought processes and their emotions, and this does exactly that. So
yeah, I agree. I like it. I love it. Great pick. Let me bring up my number 3 pick here. Is that all right? Can I do that? Am I allowed to?
I mean, I think it's fair. Go for it.
Okay, let's go ahead and do that. So I'm a huge fan of this series right here. I really enjoyed number 1 through 4. I thought that this story was well written. I feel like the pace is well done. I like the horror aspect behind the whole psychological portion of this book. Talking about Phantom on the Scan number 5. Have you read any of these books?
Phantom
right
on the Scan, right?
Yes.
Not Skin. Okay,
Scan.
Gotcha. I heard wrong. Yeah.
Phantom on the Scan.
I read the first issue and I liked it. I just, for some reason, didn't keep up with it. I don't know why. But no, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
It's solid. I truly enjoyed it. Let me read a little bit about it. Cullen Bunn. Art is from Mark Torres. This is issue 5 of 5. Now, this is going to complete the series. What's going to happen after this, I don't know. You know what's going on with you've seen what's going on with a lot of the comics. They'll bring out 1 to 5 5 issues and stop and kind of end the arc and then see what happens. I feel like Aftershock has something with this series right here, and I hope that they continue on with this right here. So in the heart of the Trellix Institute, an unearthly power is awakened. As their numbers dwindle, their psychic abilities threaten to kill them as a vicious murderer stalks them from the shadows. A group of gifted individuals discovers the terrifying truth about their powers. It's really, really cool because in the last issue, you found out how they ended up getting their powers. Now they're going back to the place that actually gave them the powers just to find answers. But there's this one guy that's hot on their tail who's trying to prevent them from finding those answers. It's a really cool psychological thriller, in my opinion.
Yeah, I liked it. Again, I just, for some reason, fell off it, and it wasn't intentional, in all honesty. I think it's one of those things where I thought it was in my pull box, and I didn't. I got my pull box one day, and for some reason, didn't realize it was missing. God knows. Probably League of Comic Geek screwed me over. But no, I really liked the first issue, and I liked it was a psychological thriller as well, because, again, I'm really big on those. I mean, it's definitely one of the better books by Cullen Bunn. I mean, Cullen Bunn writes everything. Like, he's got 20 stories out at once, I swear, the man. Yeah. So
this is
you have to find the ones you like. I mean, not that there's ever one that's very terrible necessarily, but like you're gonna read a Cullen Bunn story that's really good, and you're gonna read one that doesn't hit as well. And I think it's one of the ones that hits better.
Yeah. I think you brought it up on your show recently, and it has to do with James Tynion IV, where like you don't want these guys to spread themselves so thin. Like they're creating and writing so many books at the same time. Like, where are we going to lose the quality? Which book is not going to have the top end quality that they're capable of? And that's what I want to see. Some of these big name guys, like, they're going to make their money, dial it back a bit so that way they can focus on just 4 main projects, because Cullen Bunn, he can be hit or miss. James Tynion is so talented right now that everything he's doing is on point, but he's going to fall eventually. And what's going to happen? So I'm really hoping that some of these guys dial it back just a little bit, just for the sake of having something for the future.
I mean, and it's hard because from their point of view, they want to write as much as possible because they need to live. I mean, that's how they make their living, and they want to create as much as possible, I'm sure, just as creators. And then on the other hand, it's also all these publishers asking them to do it. I mean, all these publishers, they're not going for new talent. They want to go with what they know is going to get the money guaranteed. So they go to Tom Taylor and they go, everybody likes Tom Taylor. Yes. Okay. Come back, Mr. Taylor. Like, Tom Taylor's writing a million things, and he's one of my favorite writers. but like I'm having this, I can't just buy something now with his name on it because again, the quality dwindles as it spreads, and that's what I'm afraid is gonna happen with James Tynion. That said, he's going to Substack now, so maybe it won't happen with him. But yeah, I totally share your same concerns.
Yeah. So let's hope Cullen's doing good. Let's hope that he can still keep that fire going. All right, let's talk about it then, Lauren. Let's go ahead and talk about your number 2 pick for your comic book.
Well, speaking of James Tynion the Fourth, again, both these next couple weeks are so hard to pick from. It's always the end of the month that's the hardest, and all the books come out at once, literally. But I surprisingly to myself have been really enjoying the new arc of Something's Killing the Children. So issue 19 of that I'm really looking forward to because I really like that they're going into Erica's past. I didn't realize I would enjoy as much as I did, but I'm so glad I kept up with the book and tried it because, yeah, again, James Tynion also has a way of writing characters, but he also has a way of building background stories with characters. Like, he has a specific talent for that, I feel like. And it really shows.
It's great that he does that because he gives the characters character. I mean, that's what he's doing. He's making sure that those characters are going to have longevity in the industry in one way or another, so that way if their story finally ends, it's going to end and it's going to hit hard, or if it continues, we have this huge backstory that we just already know, so that way later on if they bring a small tidbit in, you're like, oh yeah, I remember it from issue 18 or whatever. And I think that's important for every character out there, is to have a backstory that's relatable, that's good to read, something that hits in a way that I'm going to miss you when you're dead. I'm going to miss you when you're gone. I'm going to miss you when this is over, because it's going to be done with, but it's because like,
I was going to say, you're writing a song right there, Eman. You're writing a song.
I'm going to miss you when it's over.
Exactly. But no, and it's amazing that it works well here because, I mean, the whole first 2 arcs of Something's Killing Children was a whole story. And then we were told, oh, by the way, we're going to pause that story and just go back in time. And I was like, why would you do that? But now that I'm reading it, I'm like, this actually makes so much sense because a lot of people grew to like Erica as a character during the story, but the story still wasn't completely focused on her. And because she's such a well-likable character and people respond to her so well, people wanted more from her. And so if James hadn't gone back to give her this backstory and just kept going forward from her point of view, it wouldn't have hit the same. So like you're saying, I think you're absolutely right. Now that we're getting all this backstory on her, once the story does start going again in the next arc, most likely, and it's probably going to be told from her perspective, we're going to be way more attached to her. Like we're going to be like, oh my God, if she dies, like my soul's going to break. It's not just going to be like, oh darn, that's sad. Oh well, it's going to be, oh my God, we watched her as a child go through this. Holy shit. Like, you can't do this, Jay. Like, if he ever kills her, like, we're all not going to be okay.
I mean, it's very similar to watching a child star, do awesome shows or movies as a kid, and they get older and they become this superstar, and then like all of a sudden something might happen to them, and you're like, oh my God, like I've watched you since you were a child. Oh no, So it kind of goes in that direction for me, knowing Erica's backstory, and her backstory is quite intriguing. This last issue I thought was actually really good, number 18, where you saw her go in with Octo, and you go in with the head guy. It was I think the head guy of St. George's organization.
Man, the part where she walks in and he tells her how to go and everything, and then he walks out of the barn or wherever it was, and he looks at the other woman and he's like, why didn't you frickin' tell me? Like, that kid's gonna die. You're making me send that kid to her death. And so that makes it so much more interesting as well to see that it's not like these people were actually wanting to hurt a child, or they're trying to be mean. They do think they're doing a service to kids, and they also want to protect the kids.
Yeah.
But they also still have these traditions and different things going on that they have to be obligated to. And so there are these gray moral areas. And I love the gray areas. I like it when it's not just good and not just evil. I like it when it's in the middle and it's confusing and it's hard. And honestly, I mean, the more I think about it, the more it reminds me this whole going back with Erica's backstory and everything. It reminds me of when I watched Buffy. Like, I watched Buffy in season 1, a little kid in high school grow up to when she's adult, and then season 5 she has a sister all of a sudden and she sacrifices herself
Yeah.
And that was so heartbreaking, but what happened is heartbreaking if I didn't have the build up of watch her go through high school. So I feel like that's gonna be similar with Erica as a character. So
Exactly.
yeah, man, you sold me on my own top 3 pick. Like,
you know, I'm actually gonna go buy that one, man. That was
really like, now I'm more ready. Now I'm like, that's gonna be on the top. Damn it.
Well, you know what? Let me go ahead and continue on with the tradition. Let me go ahead and read the synopsis on this one right here, because number 19 follows number 18 and the after effects of what happens when she goes into the barn. So, of course, writers James Tynion IV, artist is Werther Deledra. Erica must follow the game of nowhere, a secretive binding ritual of the Order of St. George, but not everyone wants her to succeed. And it's much more than a game. It's an important yet dangerous part of Hunter's initiation. Not all students survive the process. Will Erica pass? And if so, at what cost?
Yeah, you should do movie trailers.
Why, thank you. Voiceover is one thing I want to do, Will. Like an actual voice. I want to learn how to do that. I think I have something down there. But I like this question right here of, will Erica pass? Yes. We've seen her in issue 1 through 15. Something's gonna happen. She will pass. All right. Don't make it sound like
she could fail and somehow be an exception could be made or something. Also, I think the question will she pass is hilarious because I'm in the queer community and that's a whole other discussion in the queer community.
Well, they pass it, but I don't know.
But yeah, no, it is funny, but at the same time, I wonder if James Tynion will put a twist on it. So like we all, like you said, like we can just say her going like, of course she's gonna pass, like, and then something actually happens and we're like, I'm sorry, what? Like, how? Like,
what? But we saw her in issue 1 through 15. But hold on here. You know what? Maybe she won't pass, and there will be, because there have been many exceptions for her throughout the journey from 1 through 18. There have been many exceptions that the House of Slaughter have done for her, and in this case too, they're like, all right, well, we'll make an exception, but she's not of the lineage, but we'll do it and see. So yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe that word exception is going to play pretty heavily in number 19.
I wonder if, I don't remember her name, but the woman who brought her there in the first place, I wonder if like she might, you know, like she might be about ready to die, you know, like she's in the barn about to die, and then the woman's gonna come intervene, and kind of like how the Watcher's not supposed to intervene in Marvel.
Yeah,
it's like the woman, she's gonna get punished for intervening and saving her life, but Erica will still be able to continue in the House of Slaughter because of her sacrifice.
And they probably see something special in her. I'm sure they see something special in her. Like, we've already seen that there's certain things that she can see when she fights the monsters that other people can't, or she's got certain techniques that she's learned on her own that no one else knows. So, I mean, obviously they're going to keep her around, but I guess the real thing is more about the journey rather than you know, the ending, right? You know. So, all right, good, solid pick. I like that. I'm going to go ahead and steal that from you, too. I like that. It's on my list also. I like that. You know. All right, well, let me get into my number 2 pick. So, this one right here, this one's a little, you know, it's not typically something that I like. I have been putting these books in my pool over the last year. I just never really mentioned it, only because I've really been collecting it, but kind of putting it to the side. And I don't know why I'm doing that with this particular character, because I was telling my girlfriend recently, she's like, let's kick back. Like, honestly, who is your favorite comic book character? And I'm like, I can't say Spider-Man and Captain America and Superman and Batman, because I never really followed them from the beginning, or I don't go that far back. However, this is my favorite comic book character, only because I was there from the beginning. Like, I was there when issue 1 came out, all the way up to number, where are we at? I think 320 now. And I'm talking about Spawn, and I'm talking about King Spawn number 1. And I'm looking forward to this book because this is a brand new storyline, a brand new everything. And it's the first time there's been a brand new Spawn story since Spawn originally started in 1992. So I like being there at the beginning. So have you read about? Did you read the Spawn Universe book when it was out?
I mean, I haven't read any Spawn, to be
Mhm.
honest. I own Spawn #1, but I haven't had a chance to delve into it because I feel like it's one of those things where once I delve into it, I gotta go all out. I guess I feel like how people feel about X-Men. I'm like, I gotta go all in.
Yeah.
So I
And
haven't gotten around to it.
everyone's got their one thing, right? That you're gonna want to go all out on something that gravitates to you. That you're like, you know what, I like that. I'm gonna learn a little bit more about that. And that's how it was
Right.
with Spawn, like 1 through 30, and then life happened, and then girls happen. I'm like, oh, all right, spend money on a hot dog for a girl or get a comic book. I need to impress the girl. So that's what happened to me in the 90s, pretty much, right? But I'm like,
Right.
Spawn
Been
is
there.
something that I've always, right? So Spawn has always been something where I'm like, every time I come out of comics and go back in, like one of the first questions is like, what's going on with Spawn? Like, how's Spawn doing? Like, how's Todd McFarlane doing? Everyone's like, dude, don't worry about it. He's gonna be doing great no matter what. Like, he's gonna be coming
Right.
out with something, so he's gonna be consistent. I like the idea that this is gonna be a new Spawn book and it's gonna be drawn and written by different artists, which is what I'm liking. It's like Todd is saying,
Yeah.
here's a new world, but I'm going to trust you to go ahead and provide the backstory.
Right.
And I like that idea. I like that he's allowing people to expand the universe. So let me read a little bit about King Spawn #1. There's a bunch of writers on here. Sean Lewis, Todd McFarlane, a bunch of artists, Todd McFarlane, Philip Tan, Steven Segovia, Marcio Takara, Brett Booth, which is a 90s classic guy, Javier Fernandez. There's a shitload of cover artists with Todd McFarlane, Sean
Oh
Murphy,
yeah,
Dan
I mean
Finch,
it's
and
King
Johnny
Spawn
Cates.
#1.
Yeah.
Like they're gonna sell every cover for as much money as like that's how they work.
$5.99 covers, yeah. So this one's pricey. I think this was a little bit of a thicker book, but yeah, I'm with you. I think they're going to end up selling all of the covers on this one, especially at Donny Cates one, because you're like, Donny Cates can't really draw.
Yeah, I mean, and Sean Lewis, he wrote an indie line called Bliss recently. He finished it up, and I actually really loved that. Me and one of my friends, Mason, he has a channel called Comics and Crosses. He's great. We got to interview with Sean Lewis about Bliss, and it was a really cool conversation. And so, so now he's taking over King Spawn, which is why it took so long for us to interview him, because he's like, I'm so sorry, Spawn is taking over my life. So like Tom McFarlane's not playing. Like when he passes, it sounds like when he's passing the reins off to people, it's an investment. Like you're basically like signing your soul to Spawn until further notice, which is good for the Spawn content and everything. So yeah, I hope it goes well, and I'm interested to hear what your thoughts are since you're such a Spawn fan, because you're the only one that will have the best feedback, not someone like me who doesn't know Spawn.
And that's the thing. It's I'm a Spawn fan, but I'm more of a casual fan. Like I like the character, and I've had the toys, and I've read some, but I haven't really like I just started collecting like at number 305. So I'm kind of going backwards and trying to read and keep up and see what's going on, because like 305 is kind of like where a lot of the things within the Spawn universe is changing to get into things like King Spawn and the Spawn's universe and all the things that McFarlane is doing with Spawn. So it's like, all right, let me get back in. So I'm excited for it, because I really want to read something new but still has to do with the world. Let me read a little bit about this one right here. A historical new ongoing Spawn series begins. The launch of this book, nearly 3 decades in the making, further expands the Spawn universe with the growing presence of hell, heaven, and the heroes here on Earth. A classic villain from Spawn's past has begun asserting his powers on Earth by corrupting as many souls as possible, and only Spawn knows that he even exists. Continuing the dramatic battles from Spawn's Universe #1, this is where it all begins. Don't miss out. This is the last time a new ongoing Spawn series launched was in 1992. So right there in the synopsis, it tells you like it's the last time.
Of course they gotta create the collectability. They gotta build the value in the comics so people buy like crazy and then sell it like crazy. Like that's how the comics market works. Is if you just make it sound like it's worth something, it's worth something. That's how it works.
I mean, like speaking about that, listen to what he's doing too. Like you've heard about the Spawn or the King Spawn #1, the 1 in 250 incentive that he's signing, and that he's never gonna sign again. He's like, these are the only ones I'm gonna sign, and no one else.
I'm torn on that stuff, because it's cool for the fans, but also it's only cool for the fans that can afford it, and it's one of those things where it's clearly just to get to build the collectability value and the rarity of it. And while again, I think that's really cool, it's also like, I don't know, like that's just a problem comics have in general to me, is that, you know, it's hard for people to get things just because people go, oh, look, you have to want this, right? Look, it's rare. Like my dad does that. Like if you show him a comic and tell him this is rare, he suddenly wants it, even though he doesn't care about that comic. I mean, it's literally, that's how this industry works a lot of the time. But again, I think it is cool. He's building it, and he's built this entire universe. And I mean, it's quite the feat Todd McFarlane's done. So full props to him, man. Like,
I think he's kind of following, and I don't know if he's following in the footsteps of or mimicking or whatever, but look what happened with Berserker, right? They built all this hype behind Berserker. Berserker sold 600,000 copies. King Spawn #1 is selling 500,000 copies. He has a special 1 in 250 incentive that only he's signing. There was the 1 in 1,000 Berserker that Keanu was signing. So it's kind of mimicking that marketing ploy. Now it's a matter of actually making sure that King Spawn is actually a book people want to keep reading. I mean, they're going to want to get that #1, but are they going to want to keep reading the book? Berserker,
right?
Like Berserker. Okay, I've said this about Berserker. In my opinion, highly underrated, but super overhyped. Like the book is, in my opinion, it's actually not bad. It really isn't that bad. However, it's so overhyped that I don't think it's as good as people make it seem to be.
But
and that's what I don't want to happen with King Spawn, that there's going to be overhype behind it.
I mean, well, and I mean, again, that's just an industry problem. A #1 comes out, it'll get 90 different covers, and then every issue after that doesn't get that. You're lucky if you get a variant cover, depending on what line it is. Mm-hmm. And they heavily market #1s, and that's always been a problem in the comic industry, is a #1 all of a sudden holds more value. I mean, if you look at like when DC rebrands and they make everything a new #1, why do you think they do that? Like, that's part of it. There's other reasons, but that's a part of it. And yeah, I mean, like when Berserker came out and everybody was excited about it, I wasn't excited at all, because I knew it was completely marketed as the Keanu Reeves book, and they were just getting all the money because his name, and they drew himself on it. Like, so I think it was completely overhyped. That's why I haven't touched it, even though people have said, like you, it's not that bad. Okay, but is it that good? Probably also not that. So I don't, it's just not for me. But yeah, I hate it when they just heavily market stuff in a way that's clearly just cheap, and that's, yeah, it's just one of those things. But
going back to what you just said, is it that good? It's good enough for the price of the comic book. Would you spend spend $3.99 on a read, and will this read entertain you? Honestly, I think it would. I just don't think it's gonna hit you as hard as they want it to hit you. But I think it's a decent enough read to be like, all right, shit, kind of want to see what happens next.
I mean, I don't think they wanted to hit you hard in terms of plot or anything. All they had to do was say Keanu Reeves, put in some action, probably a couple witty, funny dialogue that's not great writing, but it's still kind of funny. I don't know if it's funny, the book, but I'm just guessing that's what it is. It's punch, pow, it's Keanu Reeves' face. There's a couple witty lines in it, so it's still enjoyable. It's like a movie you go see once in the theater and then never want to see again, from what I've heard. Sounds like, and like, actually, that's not a quality comic that I'm going to advertise. Again, if I buy it, maybe I won't regret buying it completely, but I'm not going to sit there and want to open it again. Is it something I will revisit even in the future, But anyways, not to hate Berserker, I haven't read it, but just talking about how they mass market books clearly just to get money out of us, and it works because everybody's like, oh man, their gimmicks don't work on me. Well, you all just did this again. Like, it works every time. You put Keanu Reeves on a book, you buy it. You put Batman on a book, you buy it. Like, Todd McFarlane writes anything or makes action figures, y'all buy it. Granted, his action figures are good, and Todd McFarlane does good stuff, no hate to him, but like, come on, guys. Like, anyways, I'm off. Sorry, I'll get off the soapbox, but everybody does it. We all do it.
And that's my thoughts on King Spawn #1.
But get King Spawn. Let me know how it is, because if it is that, I'll be interested to hear if it's a good jumping on point. Because if it's a good jumping on point, then I could start there and work my way backwards.
I would say it is, because like I said, it's something brand new. So if you're not a Spawn fan, if you want to know kind of what's going on, I think this is the perfect jumping on point, because it's going to be a new storyline. It's going to be a brand new arc. It's a completely new comic book. But to what point? How much more different is King Spawn going to be from the regular Spawn series? That's the part I don't know. If you just kind of look up a little bit of backstory of what Spawn is and then move on, I think you would be okay. I feel confident that I'll be able to jump on here and be like, oh, okay, cool, I know what's happening. Or at least I have a comic book or two that references like certain events in that book. But I think this is a good enough jumping on point. I don't know. Maybe the Spawn fans out there can let Lauren and I know down in the comments below. Is King Spawn #1 a good jumping on point? Let's go ahead and just leave it out there to all my dozens of fans. Let's see.
I was gonna say, yeah. Let us know, guys, because we know nothing apparently, or at least I don't.
All right, Lauren. Let's go ahead and get into it. The last one, your number 3 pick for New Comic Book Day. Talk to me. What is
you mean number 1? Because we did 3. We went 3, 2, 1.
It's my show. What's your number 3 pick? What's
you know what? This is
number 1 pick.
My second number 3. If you do that, somehow you'll get to 1. Don't worry about it. Math doesn't. It's not real. My number 1 pick coming up in this week. This is a line that I honestly, even though it got an award, I don't think it gets enough credit in terms of people talking about in our community. But I really love it. I originally didn't want to touch it because I was tired of the character. The MCU kind of ruined the character a bit for me. And then people told me it was really good. And I said, fine, I trust who's writing it. Let's see. And I got convinced. Black Widow number 10. I've really been enjoying it, and it shocked me because the MCU kind of wore me out as a Black Widow fan because I just personally feel they didn't give her the treatment she deserved. They didn't give her the time. It took forever for her to get a film. Anyway, so the MCU drained me as a fan, but I started reading this line, and it made me care about Natasha again. And this was before the Black Widow movie came out. So I actually cared about Natasha before I saw the Black Widow movie. And it was because of this comic. Kelly Thompson is the writer. And if you know her at all, I compare her to Tom Taylor in terms of she's such a great writer and she writes characters as well as he does. They are both character-driven writers. And she basically saved Natasha for me. Yelena is also in the line, and she's great. She is not the same as in the movie. So if you're a fan of her in the movie, just be careful. They're similar, not the same. But it's just so fun. The action sequences are amazing. Elena Yarngard, I think, is the artist, and she does amazing. There's really cool spy action scenes that cross both pages at the same time. It's literally like watching a spy movie at times.
Oh, right on.
The characters interacting with each other is always fun. There's real stakes. It's so good. So if you aren't reading it, you should. If you don't read Marvel, too bad. Do this anyway. Black Widow number 10.
That's what I've heard, is that Black Widow is actually probably Marvel, either Black Widow or Daredevil are Marvel's best books right now. And you know what, based off of recent events, don't we have to say that Black Widow is the best? Because it is Eisner Award winning.
It is Eisner Award winning. That's right, it is.
So, like you said, written by Kelly Thompson. Artist is actually Elena Casagrande.
Casagrande, thank you. I'm sorry, Elena.
My Mexican card is about to get revoked. Hold on, let me repeat that name again. It's Elena Casagrande.
There you go. Yeah. E-Man, you're going to watch out. You're going to make all the women lose that they're watching.
Elena Casagrande.
You gotta do that more, man. You're gonna get so many weird. You're gonna get people requesting for an OnlyFans. You gotta be careful. Be careful.
Buenas tardes.
People are gonna start calling you Antonio. What's his last name?
Banderas.
Yes.
I don't know. I just chose the first Antonio that came to my head. He's awesome. I like him. Let me read a little bit about Black Widow, though. Let me read. Black Widow's life blows up with her legacy issue number 50. Things are looking grim for the Black Widow as Apogee and his human forces them back into a corner. With Lucy's power still a possible death sentence and the Widow's on the run, who will save San Francisco from Apogee? Who will save the Olio from themselves? I am the Black Widow ends here, and a new power emerges as superstars Kelly Thompson and Elena Casagrande approach Natasha Romanoff into a deadly new era. Ooh.
That's right. It sounds great. I'll take it. Hand it over.
Isn't this Kelly Thompson's last issue? Is that a rumor? Did I mishear? Isn't Kelly Thompson?
I have not heard that. I hope that's not true, because if it is, I'm gonna go find a corner and cry, because that's very upsetting. So I don't think that's true. Let's just not think about that.
Edit. I'll go ahead and throw the word "edit," not true, somewhere in the middle right here. Like, don't listen to Eman's rumor. He's starting shit. I'll probably put that on the
I mean, I could have missed it, but yeah, I haven't heard that. I hope that's not true. But I mean, I don't see why she would, unless she's jumping to something else, because she's been writing Black Widow and she does Captain Marvel as well, which I also pick up. So yeah.
So then I will say I misheard something. I apologize to all the Black Widow fans out there. I'm not saying she's leaving. I just probably saw some letters that probably spelled out she's doing something, and I probably
now I feel like I have to check her Twitter to make sure. Like, now I'm paranoid.
Yeah, maybe you should. You guys, I'll let you guys do the research. I'll let you do the research.
Don't give me a heart attack like that. I literally can't handle that.
Well, let me take care of my final number 1 pick for new comics.
Yes, please do. Chase us.
So, I'm a huge fan of this series right here. I've been reading since number 1, and I absolutely love the lore behind it. It's a new take on a classic character and its background, and modernized it in such a way where now that sounds like he's a bad guy. It sounds like King Arthur's got some shit going on in England, and we have some grandma named Bridget who's making sure that worlds don't collide. I'm talking about Boom Studios' Once in Future, number 19. Lauren, do you read Once in Future by any chance?
Nope, I don't. So tell me more, because every time I see it, I'm like, this looks cool. But then I see the number of issues it has, and I go, suddenly it's less cool.
Well, I mean, trades, right? I mean, that's what trades are for. Go back and get the trades. I love Once in Future because this is about a grandmother and her grandson trying to prevent the other world powers from combining with this world, who's trying to get taken over by an evil zombified King Arthur, Merlin, like all of those guys, but they're drawn so cool. This book reminds me of certain characters from old 90s Spawn comics. I truly, truly enjoy the art in Once in Future and the story behind it. A grandmother and a grandson trying to stop a zombie, a King Arthur from taking over the world. It's actually really, really cool to me for some strange reason.
Interesting.
I'm digging it. Let me read a little bit about it. Writers Kieran Gillen and art from Dan Mora. Tell me you know those two superstars right there. At least you know those names, right?
I do know those names, thank God.
Is it possible that King Arthur and Merlin can actually save England from other King Arthurs and Merlins? What's going on here? A very strange war is brewing indeed. The other world and our world have collided, and England is ground zero for the chaos. Bridget has spent her whole life fighting to prevent this future from happening, but now that it's arrived, she's at a loss. Fortunately, she has Duncan, her grandson, by her side, and he's not about to let Grand give up. I love the dynamic between the grandmother and the grandson. She's a grandma, he's a grandson, pushing he's probably a millennial, 33 years old, kind of nerdy, and he's like, I don't know what I'm doing, and she's like, fight! I need you to go get out there and pull a trigger and shoot, King Arthur in the head. He's like, I don't know what to do with the gun, like he's kind of like that kind of a guy. And she's like, help me, I need your help. So it's the dynamic between grandma and grandson I find absolutely adorable. They're funny together. And then just the whole aspect of a zombie King Arthur just trying to take over the world. All of that just meshed together. I thought Kieran Gillen and Dan Mora just are doing a fantastic job with this book.
Yeah, that sounds like chaos. It's one that, fantasy is hit or miss for me as a genre, because some fantasy I can get in. That's been one of those things that I feel like I can easily connect with. Fantasy sometimes feels too big for me to get, whereas sci-fi doesn't, and I don't know why, because sci-fi is freaking huge as well. But no, and it sounds like, I mean, I like that you described those character dynamics and like the silly dynamic between the grandson and the grandma, because a lot of people may think like, oh, that's whatever, but like that's the kind of shit I like. Like I wrote this in a review I wrote before. I'm literally a whore for characters. Like I'm a whore for good characterization. When stuff like that happens, that's how you get me to read a book. So it sounds awesome.
Maybe you should give this one a try. Go ahead and pick up a trade and see how it goes. Like the first 5 issues are pretty cool, so see what
I'll add it to my stack of trades. I'm catching up on
there
it between my new comics. I'll add it there.
I love it. Well, that's it right there, you guys. Thanks for hanging out with us. That is our top 3 new comic book day picks for August 25th. Lauren from the House of Nerd, thank you so much for hanging out with me. I truly appreciate it. Do me a favor, do everyone a favor. Go ahead and plug your socials. Let everyone know how they can find you.
Yeah, if you want to hear more chaos from me or just want to laugh at it, you can find me on Twitter. My handle's down there by my name at friendlymBHDby. I'm also on the House of Nerd show. That's what he's been talking about. We do it every Sunday at 11 a.m. Eastern. You can always catch the replays if you can't make it, but I really encourage people to try to make a live show at least once, because more than anything, the live chats now are so loud. Like they're all having different conversations while we're talking. Like it's really a chat for y'all, which is so cool to see. So check it out. Check us out on Twitter and Instagram at House of Nerd Show. Come bother us. We do stuff like this all the time. Eman knows that we are pretty uncensored, so just know that.
I love, like, honestly, like, I talked about them at the beginning of the show, and I'll talk about them at the end of the show. They're awesome, you guys. Go check them out. Let's get some more subscribers. I think you guys are like at 230 subscribers right now. Like,
I think we're like 200 something, like in the 270s. Actually, we're pushing 300. So yeah,
they're not at 300. Get them to 300. Follow the House of Nerd show. You guys need to go out there and hang out with these guys because they're awesome. I absolutely
come join the house. We have room. We can add on more to the house. It's ever growing. We'll buy more land.
Do it. This is for the House of Nerd show. Hey. And of course, you guys can find me on the C-List Villains podcast. New episodes come out every Saturday on iTunes, Spotify, or your favorite podcast app. We do have our live show every Monday and Thursday at 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. That's 11 p.m. Eastern Time. You guys can't hang out with us during the live show, then come and hang out with us right there on the rewind. No problem. Someone's watching that account. If you guys make a comment, I'm sure Red will say something inappropriate and you might like it. I don't know. We'll see what happens.
When did their ghosts show up? You'll have a great time. But
exactly.
Check them out, guys, because yeah, I really enjoy seeing everything you guys do as well. I'm just usually asleep when you do your live shows, unfortunately, and catch them. Man,
no worries.
Thank you for having me. I'm so glad to be here with you. You have some of the best vibes out there. You have a great fan base and everything. So it's been great being here.
Oh, stop it. And thanks to everyone for hanging out with us, you guys. All right, until the next issue. Deuces.